My wife wanted an open marriage. I wanted a quiet Thursday night with leftover pizza and the Cubs game. Guess who won? Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Danny, we need to talk. Jessica set down her wine glass with that particular precision that meant I was about to get screwed, and not in the fun way. She'd been doing that thing where she arranged her face into what she probably thought looked like compassion, but came across more like a funeral director discussing payment plans. Shoot, I said, not looking away from the TV. Rizzo was up to bat, and honestly, watching him strike out seemed preferable to whatever Jessica had brewing. I've been thinking about us, about our marriage, about what we both need to be truly fulfilled. The way she said fulfilled made it sound like a yoga retreat brochure. I muted the game and turned to face her. At 38, Jessica still looked good, the kind of good that came from expensive gym memberships and whatever the hell she did at those spa weekends with her sister Amy. But there was something different in her eyes tonight. Something that made my stomach clench. What kind of thinking? I asked. She took a breath like she was about to dive off a high board. I think we should open our marriage. I stared at her. Open it to what? Jehovah's Witnesses? Danny, I'm serious. We've been together for 12 years. We're comfortable, maybe too comfortable. I think we both deserve to explore other connections while maintaining what we have. The words hit me like a slap, but I kept my face neutral. 12 years in the army teaches you not to react when someone's pointing a weapon at you, even if that weapon is your wife's mouth. Other connections, I repeated slowly. Physical connections. Emotional ones. It doesn't mean I love you any less. It just means we're mature enough to acknowledge that one person can't fulfill every need. I nodded like I was considering this profound wisdom instead of wondering how long she'd been rehearsing this speech. And you came to this conclusion all by yourself? A flush crept up her neck. I've been reading about it. There are books, websites. Lots of couples are doing this now. Lots of couples. I stood up and walked to the kitchen, mainly because I needed to move or I was going to put my fist through the wall. Anyone I know? Danny, don't be like this. Like what? Confused? Because my wife just told me she wants to fuck other people but keep me around for the mortgage payments? That's not what this is about. I opened the fridge and grabbed a beer, taking my time with the bottle opener. Then explain it to me, Jess. Use small words. She followed me into the kitchen, her heels clicking on the tile like a countdown timer. You're being deliberately obtuse. This is about growth, about not letting fear and jealousy limit our potential for happiness. My potential for happiness. I took a long drink. Right now, my potential for happiness involves you not sleeping with other men. See? This is exactly the kind of possessive thinking that holds relationships back. I almost laughed. Almost. Possessive. Yeah, that's me, thinking my wife should only have intimacy with me. I'm practically a caveman. Jessica's phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at it, and that flush deepened. Something cold settled in my chest. Expecting someone? I asked. It's just work. But she didn't check the message, and she didn't meet my eyes. In the army, we called that a tell. Everyone has one. That little thing they do when they're lying. Jessica's was touching her earring, which she was doing right now. Work at 9:30 on a Thursday night. You know how demanding my job is. I did know. Jessica worked in marketing for a mid-sized firm downtown. Her boss was a guy named Eric Prentice, mid-40s, divorced, drove a BMW he probably couldn't afford. I'd met him at a couple of company parties, the kind of guy who wore expensive suits to hide the fact that he had the personality of wet cardboard. Is Eric working late too? I asked casually. The earring touching intensified. I don't know. Probably. He's very dedicated. Dedicated, I nodded. That's one word for it. We stared at each other across the kitchen island. The refrigerator hummed. Somewhere in the distance, a dog was barking. Normal sounds in a normal house where a normal marriage was apparently dying. So, how does this work? I asked finally. Do we have rules? A schedule? Do I get Tuesdays and Thursdays while Eric gets the weekend? Eric? She tried to look confused, but her hand was practically welded to that earring now. What does Eric have to do with anything? You tell me. Danny, you're being paranoid. Am I? Because it seems like you've got this all figured out. The speech, the reasoning, the justification. Almost like you've been planning this for a while. Her phone buzzed again. This time she grabbed it, turning slightly away from me as she read. Important work emergency? I asked. Danny, I think you should take some time to process this. Maybe we can talk more tomorrow when you've had a chance to think rationally. Rationally. Like I was the one being unreasonable here. Sure, I said. I'll think about it. She smiled then, probably thinking she'd won. Good. I knew you'd understand eventually. You're a reasonable man, Danny. It's one of the things I love about you. Love. Right. The way she said it made it sound like she loved me the same way she loved her favorite coffee shop. Convenient, comfortable, but easily replaced if something better came along. I'm going to bed, she said, kissing my cheek like we'd just discussed vacation plans instead of the nuclear option. Don't stay up too late. I watched her walk away, her phone already in her hand, probably texting Eric about how well it went, how her reasonable husband was going to think about it rationally. What I was actually thinking about was the credit card statements I'd been meaning to look at more closely. The late nights at the office that had been happening more frequently. The new underwear I'd found in her drawer, black lace, tags still on, definitely not for my benefit since our intimate life had been about as exciting as a tax seminar lately. I finished my beer and opened another one. Then I got my laptop and started thinking very rationally indeed. By midnight, I'd learned several interesting things, like how Jessica's credit card showed charges at the Marriott downtown on 3 different afternoons last month. Always the same day she'd claimed to be in client meetings that ran long. Or how Eric Prentice was actually still married, not divorced, like he'd told everyone at the office parties. His wife's Facebook page was full of pictures of their perfect life together, vacations, anniversary dinners, family photos with their 2 kids. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark for a long time, listening to Jessica move around upstairs, getting ready for bed, probably texting her dedicated boss about how her reasonable husband was going to be so understanding about their mature, open arrangement. What Jessica didn't understand was that I'd spent 12 years learning how to plan operations, how to gather intelligence, how to identify targets and neutralize threats. And right now, my wife and her boyfriend had just declared war on everything I'd built. Time to show them what reasonable really looked like. The next morning, Jessica was gone before I woke up. No coffee made, no note, just the lingering smell of her expensive perfume and the kind of silence that screams guilt. Her side of the bed looked like she'd barely slept. I made coffee and sat at the kitchen table staring at my phone. 3 missed calls from my buddy Rob at work, probably wondering why I wasn't in yet. I called in sick, which wasn't entirely a lie. I felt sick to my stomach. Instead of going to the office, I drove to Melissa's apartment. Melissa Chen was Jessica's best friend since college, the kind of woman who knew where all the bodies were buried because she'd helped dig half the graves. If Jessica was cheating, and my gut said she definitely was, Melissa would know about it. She answered the door in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her black hair pulled back in a messy bun. Danny? What are you doing here? Hey Mel, got a minute? She glanced past me like she was checking for Jessica's car. Is everything okay? That's what I'm trying to figure out. She let me in, which was interesting. If she was completely loyal to Jessica, she would have made an excuse. The fact that she didn't told me something. "Coffee?" she asked, already moving toward the kitchen. "Sure." Melissa's apartment was exactly what you'd expect from a single woman in her late 30s who worked in graphic design. Lots of plants, abstract art, furniture that looked expensive, but was probably from Target. She poured 2 cups and handed me one. "So what's going on?" she asked. "Jessica wants an open marriage." Melissa's hand froze halfway to her mouth. Coffee sloshed over the rim of her cup. "She what?" "You heard me." "Danny, She set the cup down and grabbed a paper towel, making a big production of cleaning up the spill. "That's between you and Jess." "Is it?" She looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something I hadn't expected. Guilt. And maybe something else. "What do you know, Mel?" "I don't know anything." "Bullshit." She flinched. I'd never sworn at her before, never been anything but polite and friendly during all the dinner parties and group outings over the years, but polite and friendly wasn't going to get me answers. "She's my best friend, Danny. And I'm her husband, or at least I was until yesterday." Melissa sat down across from me, wrapping her hands around her coffee cup like it was an anchor. "What did she tell you exactly?" "That she wants to explore other connections, physical and emotional ones. That lots of couples are doing it now." "God." Melissa rubbed her forehead. "She actually went through with it." "Went through with what?" "Nothing. I shouldn't have said that." I leaned forward. "Mel, I need to know what's going on. Is she having an affair?" The silence stretched between us like a wire about to snap. Finally, Melissa sighed. "She's been talking about Eric for months," she said quietly. "At first it was just work stuff, but then it became more. How smart he was, how he really understood her ambitions, how he made her feel appreciated." "How long?" "The talking? Maybe 6 months. But Danny, I don't know if anything actually—" "How long have they been sleeping together?" Another silence. Longer this time. 2 months, she whispered. Maybe 3. The coffee tasted like ash in my mouth. "You knew, all this time you knew she was cheating on me and you didn't say anything." "She's my best friend." "And what am I?" That stopped her cold. We stared at each other across her little kitchen table, and I could see her really thinking about it for the first time. What was I to her? Just Jessica's husband? Or something more? "You're—" She started to say something, then stopped, started again. "You're a good man, Danny. You deserve better than this. But not enough better for you to warn me." I tried to talk her out of it. I told her she was being stupid, that she was going to lose you, that Eric was bad news. But she wouldn't listen. She said you two had grown apart, that you didn't understand her anymore. And Eric does? Eric tells her what she wants to hear, that she's brilliant and beautiful and destined for bigger things than being married to a... She stopped abruptly. "To a what?" "Danny, I didn't mean..." "To a what, Mel?" She looked down at her hands. "She said you were comfortable, safe, but that she needed more excitement in her life." Comfortable. Safe. Like I was a pair of old slippers she was ready to throw away. "So the open marriage thing is just her way of having her cake and eating it too," I said. "I think so. She gets to keep the house, the financial security, the respectability of being married, while she has her fun with Eric." "What about Eric's wife?" Melissa's head snapped up. "His what?" "Eric's married, has 2 kids. Did Jessica not mention that part?" The color drained from her face. "No, she said he was divorced." "He's not. I looked him up last night. Very married. Very much still living with his family in their nice house in Westfield." Oh, God. Jess doesn't know. Or she doesn't care. We sat there for a moment, both of us processing this new information. Finally, Melissa spoke. "What are you going to do?" Good question. What was I going to do? I could confront Jessica, demand she end it, try to work things out. I could hire a lawyer, file for divorce, split everything down the middle like a civilized adult. Or I could do something else entirely. I'm going to give her exactly what she asked for, I said. What do you mean? I stood up, leaving my coffee unfinished. She wants an open marriage? Fine. But it goes both ways. Danny, wait. Thanks for the coffee, Mel, and thanks for being honest with me. Where are you going? I paused at the door and looked back at her. She was still sitting at the table, looking worried and guilty and something else I couldn't quite identify. I'm going to go explore some other connections, I said, physical and emotional ones. The look on her face told me she understood exactly what I meant. I drove home and spent the rest of the day planning. Jessica didn't come home until after 8, claiming she'd been in meetings all day. She seemed surprised that I wasn't angry, that I was actually pleasant and conversational over dinner. I've been thinking about what you said, I told her as we cleaned up the dishes, about the open marriage. She nearly dropped the plate she was holding. You have? Yeah, and I think you're right. Maybe we have gotten too comfortable. Maybe we both need to explore other options. Really? The hope in her voice was like a knife in my chest. She wasn't hoping I'd come around to accepting her affair. She was hoping I'd make it easy for her to justify it. Really? I said. In fact, I was thinking of asking Melissa out. The plate slipped from her hands and shattered on the floor. Melissa? Her voice came out as a squeak. Why not? She's attractive, intelligent, available, and she already knows all about our arrangement, so there won't be any awkwardness. Jessica stared at the broken pieces of ceramic scattered across the kitchen floor, like her brain was trying to process something that didn't compute. But Melissa is my best friend. And Eric is your boss. Seems like we're both mixing business with pleasure. How did you... She caught herself, but too late. Know about Eric? I smiled. Lucky guess. She knelt down and started picking up the pieces of the plate, her hands shaking slightly. Danny, I don't think Melissa is the right choice. Why not? I thought this was about exploring connections with people who understand us. Melissa understands me. She thinks I'm a good man who deserves better. She said that? Among other things. Jessica cut her finger on a piece of ceramic. A drop of blood hit the white tile, bright red and perfectly round. Shit, she muttered, standing up and running her finger under the cold water. I handed her a paper towel. Careful. Sometimes the things that look harmless are the ones that cut the deepest. She looked at me then, really looked at me. And for the first time since this whole thing started, I saw fear in her eyes. Good. She was starting to understand that her reasonable husband might not be as reasonable as she thought. Jessica left early again the next morning, but this time I was ready for her. I'd installed a tracking app on her phone weeks ago, not because I didn't trust her, but because she had a habit of losing it and asking me to call it. Funny how useful innocent little apps could become. According to the GPS, she wasn't at her office. She was at the Marriott downtown, same place she'd been charging lunches for the past 3 months. I called Melissa. Danny, is everything okay? Depends on your definition of okay. Want to grab lunch? A pause. I don't think that's a good idea. Why not? I thought we were friends. We are, but Jessica wouldn't like it. Another pause, longer this time. It's complicated. It doesn't have to be. Meet me at Romano's in an hour. Danny. 1 hour, Mel. Just lunch between friends. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a corner booth and fidgeting with her napkin. She'd changed clothes since yesterday, wearing a dress instead of yoga pants, her hair down instead of pulled back. She'd put on makeup. Interesting. You look nice, I said, sliding into the seat across from her. Thank you. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Danny, about yesterday. You were honest with me. I appreciate that. I shouldn't have said anything about Jess. Why not? Someone should be honest in this situation. The waitress came over and we ordered. Italian food, red wine, the kind of meal you have when you're trying to seduce someone or be seduced. Not that I was planning anything. Not exactly. Where is she today? Melissa asked after the waitress left. Marriott downtown, room 412 if I had to guess. Melissa's face went pale. How do you know that? I know a lot of things. Like how Eric's wife thinks he's in Chicago on business this week, or how Jessica's been using our joint credit card to pay for their little romantic getaways. Danny, you're scaring me. Good. Someone should be scared. It sure as hell isn't going to be me anymore. The wine arrived. I poured for both of us, noting how Melissa's hand shook slightly when she picked up her glass. What do you want from me? She asked. I want you to choose a side. It's not that simple. Sure it is. You can keep covering for Jessica while she destroys our marriage and lies to everyone around her. Or you can help me show her what it feels like to be betrayed by someone she trusts. Melissa took a large gulp of wine. You want me to spy on her. I want you to be my friend instead of her accomplice. That's not fair. Neither is what she's doing to me. We ate in relative silence, the tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Finally, Melissa spoke. What did you mean yesterday? About exploring other connections? Exactly what Jessica meant. Maybe it's time I stopped being so comfortable and safe. With me? I met her eyes across the table. Would that be so terrible? She looked away, but not before I saw something flicker in her expression. Interest, guilt, maybe both. I could never do that to Jess. Even after what she's done to me? It's different. How? Because you're married to her. And she's sleeping with someone else. Seems like the marriage part isn't as important to her as it used to be. Melissa finished her wine and immediately poured another glass. This is crazy. Is it? Or is it just honest? Danny, I can't what? Can't admit that you've thought about it? Can't admit that you've been attracted to me for years, but stayed away because I was Jessica's husband? Her face flushed red. That's not... It's okay, Mel. I've thought about it too. That wasn't entirely true, but it wasn't entirely false either. Melissa was attractive, smart, funny, when she wasn't busy being Jessica's enabler. And right now, she was looking at me like I'd just offered her something she'd wanted for a long time, but never thought she could have. She's going to hate me, Melissa said quietly. She already hates you. She just doesn't know it yet. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and showed her the text messages I'd intercepted. Jessica complaining to Eric about Melissa being clingy and jealous, how Melissa was getting suspicious and might cause problems, how they might need to cut her out of the loop. Melissa read them twice, her face getting paler with each word. She said I was pathetic, she whispered. She said a lot of things, none of them very nice. Melissa set the phone down like it was radioactive. When did she send these? Last week, right after you tried to talk her out of the open marriage idea. She told Eric about that? She tells Eric everything, including how boring and predictable her husband is, how she can't wait to be free of me. That last part was a slight exaggeration, but not by much. Jessica had made it clear that I was an obstacle to her happiness, not a partner in it. Melissa was quiet for a long time, staring at her wine glass like it held answers to questions she didn't want to ask. What would you want me to do? She asked finally. Have dinner with me tomorrow night. Somewhere public. Somewhere Jessica's friends will see us. That's it? That's a start. She looked up at me then, and I saw something I hadn't expected. Not just attraction or guilt or anger at Jessica. I saw possibility. Okay, she said quietly. Okay? I'll have dinner with you tomorrow night. I reached across the table and took her hand. Her skin was soft, warm, and she didn't pull away. Thank you, I said. Don't thank me yet. I might change my mind. You won't. How do you know? Because you're tired of being Jessica's backup plan. And because you deserve better than watching from the sidelines while she destroys everything good in her life. Melissa squeezed my hand. Including you? Especially me. We finished lunch, and I walked her to her car. Before she got in, she turned and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Danny, what if this is a mistake? Then we'll make it together. She smiled then, the first real smile I'd seen from her since this whole mess started. Pick me up at 7, she said. I watched her drive away, already planning where to take her. Somewhere nice, somewhere Jessica would hear about it within hours. My phone buzzed, a text from Jessica. Working late again tonight, don't wait up. I texted back, no problem, I have plans anyway. She didn't respond, which was fine. Tomorrow she'd have plenty to say. I drove home and spent the rest of the afternoon making reservations and phone calls. If Jessica wanted an open marriage, she was going to get one. She just wasn't going to like her side of the deal. I picked Melissa up at 7 sharp, wearing my best suit and carrying flowers. Not roses, too obvious, but white lilies. Elegant, sophisticated, the kind of gesture that said this was more than just dinner between friends. Melissa answered the door in a black dress that hugged her curves in all the right places. She'd done something different with her hair, and her makeup was flawless. She looked beautiful, but more importantly, she looked like a woman on a date. You clean up nice, I said, handing her the flowers. Thank you. So do you. She invited me in while she put the lilies in water, and I noticed she'd cleaned her apartment. Candles were lit, soft music was playing, and there was a bottle of wine open on the counter. Were you planning on inviting me up after dinner? I asked. She blushed. I thought, maybe, if things went well. They will. I'd made reservations at Chez Laurent, the most expensive French restaurant in town, the kind of place where you needed to book weeks in advance, where the waiters spoke in hushed tones and the wine list cost more than most people's car payments. The kind of place Jessica had always wanted to go, but I'd said was too expensive. The hostess seated us at a prime table with a view of the entire dining room, perfect for being seen. This is beautiful, Melissa said, looking around at the crystal chandeliers and white tablecloths. I've never been anywhere this fancy. You should have been. A woman like you deserves to be treated well. She smiled, but there was sadness in it. Jessica always said fancy restaurants were wasted on me, that I wouldn't know good food if it bit me. Jessica says a lot of things. Most of them are bullshit. The sommelier appeared with the wine list. I ordered a bottle of Chateau Margaux that cost more than Jessica spent on shoes in a month. When it arrived, I made a show of tasting it, swirling it in the glass, nodding my approval like I knew what I was doing. To new beginnings, I said, raising my glass. To new beginnings, Melissa echoed. We were halfway through the appetizer course when I saw them. Sarah Martinez and her husband Tom sitting 3 tables away. Sarah worked with Jessica, and she had a mouth bigger than the Grand Canyon. Perfect. Don't look now, I said quietly. But Sarah Martinez is here. Melissa started to turn her head. I said don't look. Sorry, what do we do? We have dinner, we laugh, we look like we're having the time of our lives. Are we? I looked at her across the table, at the way the candlelight played across her face, at the way she was looking at me like I was the most interesting man in the world. Yeah, I said. I think we are. And surprisingly, it was true. Melissa was good company when she wasn't worried about Jessica's approval. She was funny, smart, and she actually listened when I talked instead of checking her phone every 5 minutes. Tell me something, I said as we waited for the main course. Why did you stay friends with Jessica all these years? Melissa considered the question, twirling the stem of her wine glass between her fingers. Loyalty, I guess. And fear. Fear of what? Of being alone. Jessica was my college roommate, my maid of honor at my first wedding, my shoulder to cry on when that fell apart. She was my constant, you know? Even when she was being awful, at least she was there. She wasn't there for you. She was there for what you could do for her. I know that now. Do you? Melissa looked up at me. What do you mean? I mean, are you here because you want to be? Or because you want to get back at Jessica? The question hung between us like smoke. Finally, Melissa reached across the table and took my hand. Both, she said honestly, but mostly because I want to be here. With you. Good answer. The main course arrived. Duck for me, salmon for her. We ate and talked and laughed, and I found myself forgetting why I was really here. Forgetting about Jessica and Eric and revenge, and just enjoying the company of a beautiful woman who seemed genuinely interested in what I had to say. Danny? Melissa's voice brought me back to reality. Yeah? Sarah Martinez is taking pictures with her phone. I glanced over. Sure enough, Sarah was pretending to take selfies with her husband while actually photographing our table. Perfect, I said. Should I be worried? About Sarah? No. About Jessica's reaction when she sees those pictures? Maybe. Melissa's grip on my hand tightened. What if she gets violent? Jessica? She's never hit anything harder than a tennis ball in her life. She might start. Let her. I'm not afraid of my wife, Mel. Maybe you should be. I looked at her curiously. What do you mean? She's been different lately, angrier, more intense. Like she's capable of things I never thought she'd do. Such as having an affair with a married man, lying to everyone she cares about, destroying her marriage for a fantasy. Those aren't violent crimes. No, but they show she's not the person I thought she was. And if I was wrong about that, what else might I be wrong about? It was a good point. I'd been thinking of Jessica as the woman I'd married 12 years ago. Ambitious, but fundamentally decent, selfish, but not cruel. But people change. And maybe the woman who could lie to my face about wanting an open marriage while she was already cheating was capable of more than I'd given her credit for. We'll deal with whatever comes, I said. Together? Together. We finished dinner, and I paid the check, making sure Sarah could see the total on the receipt. Then I helped Melissa with her coat, my hand lingering on her shoulder longer than necessary. Your place or mine? I asked as we walked to the car. Mine, she said without hesitation. If we're doing this, I want to do it right. We drove back to her apartment in comfortable silence, her hand resting on my thigh. When we got there, she poured more wine and put on soft music, then came and sat beside me on the couch. I haven't done this in a while, she said quietly. Neither have I. I mean, I haven't been with a married man. I'm not really married anymore. Not in any way that matters. She looked at me for a long moment, then leaned in and kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, then deeper as I pulled her closer. She tasted like wine and possibility. Are you sure about this? I asked against her lips. Are you? Yes. Then stop talking. We made love on her couch, then in her bedroom, then again in the shower. It was desperate and passionate, and nothing like the mechanical routine Jessica and I had fallen into over the past year. Melissa was responsive, enthusiastic, present in a way Jessica hadn't been in months. Afterward, we lay tangled in her sheets, her head on my chest, my fingers running through her hair. What happens now? She asked. Now Jessica finds out what betrayal feels like. I meant with us. I tilted her chin up so I could see her face. What do you want to happen with us? I want to see where this goes, without Jessica's permission or approval. Good, because I don't think we're going to get either. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from Jessica. Where are you? I showed it to Melissa. Should I answer? What would you normally do? Tell her I'm at Rob's watching the game. Then do that. I texted back. At Rob's, be home late. Another buzz. How late? Very late. Don't wait up. No response. I set the phone aside and pulled Melissa closer. "She's going to find out," she said. "I'm counting on it." And then the real fun begins. We fell asleep in each other's arms, and for the first time in months, I slept through the night without waking up wondering what Jessica was really doing when she claimed to be working late. I woke up to 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. Sarah Martinez worked fast. I got home at 6 in the morning to find Jessica sitting at the kitchen table in her robe, her laptop open, her phone beside her, and an expression on her face that could have melted steel. "Good morning," I said cheerfully, heading for the coffee maker. "Sit down. Let me just sit down." I sat. Jessica turned her laptop around so I could see the screen. It was Sarah Martinez's Facebook page, and there were at least a dozen photos of me and Melissa at Chez Laurent. Holding hands, laughing, looking very much like a couple on a romantic date. "Explain this," Jessica said in a voice that could have cut glass. Dinner. "That's right. You said you wanted an open marriage. I'm opening it." "With my best friend?" "Ex-best friend from what I hear. Didn't you tell Eric she was getting pathetic and clingy?" Jessica's face went white. "How did you know about that?" "I know a lot of things, Jess. Like how you've been fucking your married boss for 3 months while lying to my face about wanting to work on our marriage." "It's not what?" "True. I have credit card statements, hotel receipts, and about 50 text messages that say otherwise." Jessica stared at me like I'd grown a second head. "You've been spying on me?" "I've been paying attention. There's a difference." "You had no right—" "I had no right?" I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. "I had no right to notice that my wife was cheating on me? That she was using our money to pay for hotel rooms where she could fuck another woman's husband?" "Danny, please." "Please what? Please pretend this isn't happening. Please be understanding about your need to explore other connections. Please keep being your safe, comfortable backup plan while you have your midlife crisis." Jessica's hands were shaking. "It's not like that." "Then what is it like?" "It's complicated." "No, it's not. It's simple. You wanted to have your cake and eat it too. You wanted to keep me around for financial security and respectability while you played house with Eric. The only thing you didn't count on was me doing the same thing. But not with Melissa. Why not? She's beautiful, intelligent, available, and unlike some people, she doesn't lie about her intentions. She's my best friend. Was. Past tense. And whose fault is that?" Jessica stood up abruptly, knocking over her coffee cup. The hot liquid spread across the table and dripped onto the floor. "This is different," she said. "How?" "Because I love Eric." The words hung in the air like a bomb that hadn't quite exploded yet. Jessica's hand flew to her mouth like she could take them back, but it was too late. "You love him," I repeated slowly. "Danny, I didn't mean you love him. Your married boss with 2 kids and a wife who thinks he's in Chicago on business. His marriage is complicated. His marriage is fine. I checked. His wife's Facebook page is full of happy family photos from last weekend. But I'm sure he told you they were separated, right? Just waiting for the right time to file papers?" Jessica's face crumpled. "You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You fell for the oldest line in the cheater's handbook. Let me guess. They don't understand each other anymore. They're staying together for the kids. He's never felt this way about anyone before?" "Stop it." "Which one was it, Jess?" "All of them." "Stop it." "And you believed him. You actually believed that a man who would cheat on his wife wouldn't lie to his mistress." Jessica was crying now, mascara running down her cheeks in black streams. "You're being cruel." "I'm being honest. For the first time in months, someone in this house is being honest. I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. And now you get to live with the consequences." "What consequences?" I stood up and walked to the sink, stepping over the spilled coffee. "Well, for starters, Melissa and I are going to keep seeing each other. Publicly, regularly, with great enthusiasm. You can't do that. Watch me. Danny, please. We can work this out. We can go to counseling. We can what? Pretend this never happened? Pretend you didn't spend 3 months lying to my face? Pretend you didn't just tell me you love another man? I was angry. I didn't mean it. Yes, you did. And you know what? It's fine, because I don't love you anymore either. That stopped her cold. She stared at me with her mouth open, coffee stains on her white robe, her perfect hair a mess from running her hands through it. You don't mean that, she whispered. I do. I love the woman I married 12 years ago, but that woman wouldn't have done this. That woman had integrity, honor, basic human decency. I'm still that woman. No, you're not. You're someone who lies and cheats and manipulates people to get what she wants. You're someone who would destroy a marriage and break up a family for a fantasy. You're someone I don't recognize anymore. Jessica sank back into her chair like a deflated balloon. What do you want from me? Nothing. I don't want anything from you anymore. So what happens now? Now you get exactly what you asked for. An open marriage. I'll see Melissa whenever I want, wherever I want, however I want. And you can keep seeing Eric until his wife finds out and destroys his life the same way you destroyed ours. His wife doesn't know. She will. These things always come out eventually. And when they do, Eric's going to throw you under the bus so fast it'll make your head spin. Because that's what cowards do when they get caught. Jessica was sobbing now, her whole body shaking. Danny, please. I'm sorry. I'll end it with Eric. We can start over. It's too late for that. It's not. We can fix this. No, we can't. Because I don't trust you anymore. And I don't love you anymore. And most importantly, I don't want to fix this anymore. I started to leave the kitchen, then turned back. Oh, and Jess? You might want to find a new best friend. Melissa's busy now. I left her there crying over spilled coffee and went upstairs to shower. I had a date to get ready for. Melissa and I were going to brunch. By the time I came downstairs, Jessica was gone. Her car wasn't in the driveway, and she'd left her wedding ring on the kitchen counter next to a note that said simply, I'm sorry. Too little, too late. I picked up the ring, a simple platinum band we'd chosen together when we were young and stupid and thought love conquered all. It felt heavier than I remembered. I dropped it in the junk drawer next to the takeout menus and dead batteries. My phone rang. Melissa. How did it go? She asked. About as well as expected, she knows. How angry is she? Scale of 1 to 10, about a 15. Danny, maybe we should slow down. Give her time to adjust. No. No. No slowing down, no adjusting, no mercy. She made her choice, and now she gets to live with it. A pause. You sound different. I feel different. Good different or scary different? I thought about that. Both. Another pause. Are you okay? I'm perfect. Pick you up in an hour for brunch? Danny. 1 hour, Mel. Wear something that'll make Sarah Martinez's head explode when she posts the pictures. I hung up before she could argue. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. Melissa and I went out 3 or 4 times a week. Dinners, movies, art galleries. Anywhere we'd be seen by Jessica's social circle. I sent flowers to her office with cards that said things like, thinking of you, and can't wait to see you tonight. I picked her up for lunch dates in front of her apartment building where Jessica's other friends lived. Jessica, meanwhile, was falling apart. She'd moved in with her sister Amy, temporarily, claiming she needed space to think. But the truth was, Eric had dumped her the day after our kitchen confrontation. Apparently, when faced with the possibility of his wife finding out, he'd chosen his comfortable suburban life over his exciting affair. What a shock. Jessica tried calling me dozens of times, but I didn't answer. She sent long, rambling emails about how sorry she was, how she'd made a mistake, how she wanted to come home and work things out. I deleted them without reading past the first paragraph. She showed up at my office one afternoon, crying and begging me to talk to her. I had security escort her out. She cornered Melissa at the grocery store, screaming about betrayal and friendship, and how could she do this? Melissa called me in tears, and I drove over to comfort her. We ended up making love on her kitchen counter, and I made sure to leave my car in her driveway overnight so the neighbors would see. The whole thing was working exactly as I'd planned. Jessica's perfect life was crumbling, her social circle was choosing sides, and she was learning what it felt like to be the one left behind. But it wasn't enough. Not even close. 3 weeks after our kitchen confrontation, I was having dinner with Rob when he brought up something interesting. "You know your wife's been calling my Sharon, right?" he said, cutting into his steak. "Has she? Crying about how you've changed, how you're being vindictive, how she just wants to work things out." And what did Sharon tell her? That she should have thought about that before she started screwing her boss. I smiled. "I like your wife. She likes you too. Always said Jessica didn't deserve you." "Smart woman." Rob took a drink of his beer and looked at me seriously. "Danny, I got to ask, what's your endgame here?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, you're destroying your wife's life piece by piece, and everyone can see it. At some point, people are going to start thinking you're the bad guy. Let them think whatever they want. Come on, man, this isn't like you. Maybe the old me. But the old me was a sucker who trusted his wife and got screwed for it. So, what's the new you planning to do?" I leaned back in my chair and smiled. The new me is just getting started. That's what I was afraid of. Rob was right to be afraid. Because what I hadn't told him, what I hadn't told anyone, was that I'd been busy during those 3 weeks. Very busy. I'd hired a private investigator to dig into Eric's life. Turns out Jessica wasn't his first affair. There had been at least 3 others over the past 5 years, all employees, all women he'd promised to leave his wife for. I'd also done some digging into Jessica's finances. She'd been skimming money from our joint accounts for months, presumably to fund her affair. Small amounts, but it added up to several $1,000s. And I'd been documenting everything. Every lie, every betrayal, every piece of evidence that showed Jessica had been planning to leave me long before she asked for an open marriage. But most importantly, I'd been planning the final phase of my revenge, the one that would destroy not just Jessica's marriage, but her career, her reputation, and her future, the one that would show her exactly what happened when you declared war on someone who'd spent 12 years learning how to fight. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Eric." I showed it to Rob. "Looks like phase 2 is about to begin." Phase 2? The part where Eric realizes he's made a very big mistake. I texted back, "Romano's, 1 hour. Come alone." "Danny," Rob said quietly, "whatever you're planning, maybe you should think about it first." I have thought about it. For 3 weeks. And I finished my beer and stood up. And some people need to learn that actions have consequences. What if those people include you? I looked at my oldest friend, this man who'd stood by me through deployments and divorce proceedings and every other crisis in my adult life. Then I guess we'll find out what I'm really made of. I left him sitting there and drove to Romano's, where Eric Prentice was about to discover that threatening a man's wife was one thing. Threatening a man who had nothing left to lose was something else entirely. Eric was already there when I arrived, sitting in the same corner booth where I'd first recruited Melissa to my cause. He looked like hell, unshaven, wrinkled shirt, the kind of desperate exhaustion that comes from 3 weeks of looking over your shoulder. "Danny," he said as I sat down, "thanks for meeting me." "What do you want, Eric?" "I want this to stop." "This?" "The games, the revenge, the way you're destroying Jessica just to get back at me." I almost laughed. "You think this is about you? Isn't it? Eric, you're not important enough for me to waste this much energy on. This is about my wife lying to me, cheating on me, and then having the balls to ask for an open marriage to cover it up. She loves you, you know." "No, she doesn't. She told me she loves you, right before you dumped her to save your own ass." Eric flinched. "That's not what happened." "Sure it is. The minute things got complicated, You ran back to your wife and kids and left Jessica holding the bag. Because that's what cowards do. I'm not a coward. You're cheating on your wife with your employee while lying to both of them about your intentions. What would you call it? Eric was quiet for a moment, staring at his hands. I never meant for it to go this far. But it did. And now Jessica's life is ruined, your marriage is hanging by a thread, and I'm just getting started. His head snapped up. What do you mean? I pulled out my phone and opened a photo album. I mean, I've been busy, Eric. Very busy. I showed him the first picture, him and Jessica entering the Marriott 3 weeks ago, then another of them in his BMW outside a different hotel, then another of them having lunch at a restaurant across town. So, he said, but his voice was shaky. So these are just the warm-up. I swiped to the next photo, Eric entering an apartment building downtown. This is where Amanda Chen lives, your previous affair before Jessica. Eric went pale. And this, I swiped again, is where Sarah Williams lives, the one before Amanda. How did you... And this is where Lisa Rodriguez lives, the one before Sarah. Eric was sweating now. What do you want? I want you to understand that you picked the wrong man to fuck with. Danny, please. Please what? Please don't show these to your wife. Please don't send them to your boss. Please don't post them on social media for all your friends and family to see. You wouldn't. I leaned forward. Try me. We stared at each other across the table. Eric was breathing hard, his hands shaking slightly. He was finally beginning to understand the position he was in. What do you want from me? He asked quietly. I want you to disappear. Quit your job, move to another city, start over somewhere else. And I want you to leave Jessica alone. I can't just quit my job. Sure you can. People do it all the time. Unless you'd prefer I make the decision for you by sending these photos to HR. They'd fire me. At minimum, they might also press charges for harassment depending on how many of these women were willing to testify that you abused your position of authority. Eric put his head in his hands. Jesus Christ. He's not going to help you with this one. My kids should have thought about them before you started cheating on their mother. Danny, please. I'll do whatever you want. Just don't destroy my family. Your family? I laughed, and it wasn't a pleasant sound. You destroyed your family the minute you decided to stick your dick in your employees. I'm just making sure everyone knows about it. What about Jessica? If you expose me, you expose her too. Jessica's already exposed. Her life is already ruined. The question is whether yours joins it. Eric was crying now, actual tears running down his cheeks. This is insane. This is justice. No, this is revenge. Sometimes they're the same thing. I stood up to leave, then turned back. You have 48 hours to decide, Eric. Disappear voluntarily, or I'll make you disappear. Your choice. And if I choose to fight, then you'll lose, because I have nothing left to lose, and you have everything. That makes me dangerous and you vulnerable. I left him there crying into his beer and drove home to my empty house. Jessica's things were still there, her clothes in the closet, her books on the shelves, her pictures on the walls, like a museum exhibit of a life that used to exist. I poured myself a scotch and sat in my living room, thinking about what came next. Eric would probably take the deal. He was too much of a coward to fight. He'd quit his job, maybe move back to wherever he came from, start over with a new identity and a new set of lies. Jessica would be left with nothing. No husband, no lover, no job prospects, no friends. She'd have to move back in with her mother or find some other family member willing to take in a disgraced adulteress. It should have felt satisfying. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt empty. My phone rang. Melissa. Hey, I said. Hey yourself. How did it go with Eric? He's going to disappear. Good. What about Jessica? What about her? Danny, she's been calling me. She sounds broken. She should be. She's talking about suicide. That got my attention. What? She called me crying, saying her life was over, that she had nothing left to live for. She sounded serious, Danny. I was quiet for a moment, processing this. She's being dramatic. What if she's not? Then that's her choice. Danny? What? What do you want me to say, Mel? That I'm sorry? That I'll take her back? That I'll pretend none of this happened? I want you to be the man I fell in love with. This is the man you fell in love with. No, it's not. The man I fell in love with was kind and decent and wouldn't drive someone to suicide for revenge. The man you fell in love with was a sucker who let his wife walk all over him. Maybe, but he was also a good man. I finished my scotch and poured another one. Good men finish last, Mel. Do they? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've already finished last. You've got your revenge, but you've lost your soul in the process. My soul was the first casualty in this war. It doesn't have to be. Yes, it does, because if I stop now, if I show mercy, then Jessica wins. She gets to play the victim, the poor, wronged wife whose husband went crazy and destroyed her life. She gets sympathy and support and a fresh start. And what do you get? I get justice. No, Danny, you get to be alone with your anger for the rest of your life. She hung up. I sat there in the dark, drinking scotch and thinking about what she'd said, about justice and revenge and the difference between them, about the man I used to be and the man I'd become, about Jessica, alone somewhere, thinking about ending her life. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. It's over. I'm sorry for everything. Tell Melissa I'm sorry too. Jay. I stared at the message for a long time. Then I called 911. 911, what's your emergency? I need a welfare check on my wife. I think she might be planning to hurt herself. Because whatever else Jessica had done, whatever lies she'd told or hearts she'd broken, she didn't deserve to die for it. And maybe, just maybe, there was still a piece of the good man left inside me after all. The police found Jessica at the Marriott downtown, the same hotel where she'd been meeting Eric. She was sitting on the bed in room 412 with an empty bottle of sleeping pills and a half-finished bottle of wine, but she was alive. Groggy, incoherent, but alive. They pumped her stomach at the hospital and kept her for 72 hours on psychiatric hold. I didn't visit. Melissa did. She wants to see you, she told me over coffee 3 days later. I'm sure she does. Danny, she almost died. But she didn't. Because you called 911. Because I'm not a monster. Aren't you? I looked at her across the table. Melissa looked tired, older somehow. The past month had aged both of us. What do you want me to say, Mel? I want you to say you're done, that this is over, that you're not going to keep torturing her. I never tortured anyone. I just stopped being a victim. You destroyed her life. She destroyed her own life. I just made sure everyone could see it. Melissa was quiet for a long time, staring into her coffee cup like it held answers to questions she didn't want to ask. What happens to us? She said finally. What do you mean? I mean, where do we go from here? Do we keep dating? Do we move in together? Do we pretend this all started organically instead of as part of your revenge plan? It was a fair question, and I didn't have a good answer. I don't know, I said honestly. That's what I thought. She stood up to leave. Mel, wait. For what? For you to figure out whether you actually care about me or if I'm just another weapon in your war against Jessica? It's not like that. Isn't it? Tell me honestly, Danny. If Jessica hadn't cheated, would you have ever looked at me twice? I opened my mouth to lie, then closed it again. Because she deserved better than that. I don't know, I said again. At least you're honest. She picked up her purse. Jessica's getting out tomorrow. She's moving back to Ohio to live with her mother. She wanted me to tell you she's sorry and that she hopes someday you can forgive her. And what did you tell her? I told her forgiveness isn't something you can ask for. It's something you have to earn. Smart woman. Smart enough to know when I'm being used. She walked away, leaving me alone with my coffee and my thoughts and the hollow feeling that maybe I'd won the battle, but lost something more important in the process. I drove home to my empty house and found Eric's resignation letter in my email. He was moving to Portland, starting over, trying to rebuild his marriage. His wife had agreed to counseling, apparently. Some people get second chances. I deleted the email and poured myself a drink. The house was quiet. Too quiet. I'd gotten used to the sounds of another person living here, the shower running in the morning, the TV on in the background, the little domestic noises that make a house feel like a home. Now it just felt like a museum, a monument to a marriage that had died, and a man who'd killed it in the name of justice. My phone rang. Rob. "How you holding up?" he asked. "I'm fine." "Bullshit. Sharon saw Melissa at the grocery store. She said you two broke up." "We were never really together." "And Jessica's moving back to Ohio." "Good for her." "Danny, you won. You got your revenge. Jessica's life is ruined. Eric's gone. You've proven your point. So why do you sound like you lost?" It was a good question. Why did I feel like I'd lost? "Because maybe I did," I said. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe Melissa was right. Maybe I got my justice but lost my soul in the process." "So what are you going to do about it?" "I don't know. What do you do when you've burned down everything you used to care about?" "You build something new." "With what?" "I've got no wife, no girlfriend, no family. I've alienated half my friends and turned myself into the kind of man who drives people to suicide attempts." "You've also got a clean slate. No more lies, no more betrayal, no more wondering if the person you're with really loves you or is just using you. And no one to share it with. That's temporary. You're a good man, Danny. You just forgot for a while." "Am I? A good man?" "You called 911 when Jessica tried to kill herself. A bad man would have let her die. A good man wouldn't have driven her to it in the first place. A good man wouldn't have cheated on his wife either, but Jessica did that all by herself." I finished my drink and looked around my empty living room. "So what now?" "Now you figure out who you want to be going forward. The victim who got cheated on or the survivor who learned from it. And if I choose survivor? Then you stop punishing yourself for fighting back and start building a life worth living." After Rob hung up, I sat in the dark for a long time, thinking about choices and consequences and the difference between justice and revenge. About the man I used to be and the man I'd become and the man I might still be able to be. Finally, I picked up my phone and started typing. "Melissa, I know you probably don't want to hear from me, but I owe you an apology. You were right about everything. I used you, I lost myself, and I became someone I don't recognize. I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted you to know that what we had wasn't all fake. You're an amazing woman, and you deserve better than what I gave you. I hope you find it. Danny." I hit send before I could change my mind. Then I typed another message. "Jessica, I heard you're moving to Ohio. I wanted you to know that I don't forgive you for what you did, but I don't wish you any more harm either. I hope you get the help you need and find a way to be happy. We both deserve that much. Danny." I sent that one too. Then I went upstairs and started packing Jessica's things. She'd need them in Ohio, and it was time to let go of the museum and start building something new. Something that looked like a future instead of a monument to the past. Outside, it started to rain. But for the first time in months, it didn't feel like the end of the world. It felt like a beginning. 3 months later, I got a letter from Jessica. She was in therapy, working as a waitress, living with her mother and trying to figure out who she was without the lies and the affairs and the drama. She thanked me for calling 911, apologized again for everything, and said she hoped someday we could both find peace. I wrote back, not forgiveness, but acknowledgement. We'd both made mistakes. We'd both lost ourselves for a while. But we were both still here, still breathing, still capable of becoming better people than we'd been. A month after that, I ran into Melissa at the grocery store. She looked good, healthy, happy, like she'd found her footing again. "How are you?" she asked. "Better," I said. "You?" "The same." "I'm glad." We talked for a few minutes about safe things, work, weather, mutual friends. Then, as we were saying goodbye, she touched my arm. "Danny, for what it's worth, I think you're a good man who did some bad things, but I also think you learned from them." "I hope so." "I know so. Take care of yourself." "You too." I watched her walk away, and for the first time since this whole mess started, I didn't feel the urge to chase after her or call her back or try to fix something that was already broken. I just felt grateful that she'd been part of my story, even if she wasn't going to be part of my ending, because this wasn't really an ending at all. It was just the place where I stopped being the man who'd been betrayed and started being the man who'd survived it. And that man had a lot of living left to do.